All right, everybody. Welcome to the Invent Tribe Q&A, where we're going to answer any one of your inventing licensing questions and help you through that journey, as both Amy Jo and I have helped a lot of people through the journey of getting their product licensed. And so we have both coached many people and had a lot of fun doing it over the last close to a decade. I think I've got about 12 years in the business, inventing and coaching. And Amy Jo, I know you're not too far behind.
Yeah, well, you taught me.
Very true. So yeah, that was back a while ago. But
Yeah.
so yeah, so I wanted to get started off and get some people. I know we've got quite a few people here on the webinar. So if you do have questions, do type them into the chat box. For those that are new and have never been on a Zoom webinar where you can ask your own questions, at the bottom there is either a chat box or a Q&A or a question and answer section, so you can type in your questions. And so do type those in. I'm actually going to open them up because I hadn't opened them yet. As we're getting started, and so do type into your questions. I always like to start off with a little bit of news, and so and I like to kind of tell stories along with it so that people can kind of understand what's going on. So I have a project that I'm working on and had pitched it to a lot of companies, and basically was getting a lot of no's across the board, and getting a little bit of disappointment, right? As a lot of people do when they get that rejection. But one company came back to me with like super strong interest. They're like, "We're interested. We love it. We want to license it. Let's do a meeting tomorrow." They literally like got the team together and had a Zoom meeting. This was about 2 weeks ago. This is prior to the holiday weekend, so it was late June. And they're like, "We're ready to go full forward on this. Like, we understand it. We see it in the video. We see it in the marketing material. We understand the patent. We understand how it will work in our business." We're like, "Great. You're checking all the boxes." And they're like, "We understand, like, we think that this will fit in the price point, but we don't know. And so we need to obviously do our due diligence." And so they're like, "Give us 2 weeks." So that was Monday was essentially 2 weeks. I followed up, sent them an email, and they came back and said, like, "Dave," and they actually called me up, which they normally never call you for this. They're like, "Dave, it's not going to work." I'm like, what do you mean? And so like this, like, and this is like, normally they email you this. They say, "Dave, it's not going to work. Thank you so much for the opportunity, but no thanks." And so, but the part that separates the amateur inventors from the professionals is, well, why is it not going to work? And that's such a simple question, but a lot of inventors just accept what a potential licensee is going to tell them. And so they told me, "Dave, it's not going to work." And when I came back, I was like, "Why is it not going to work?" She was like shocked at my question. And she was like, "Well, it's price." And I'm like, "What do you mean price?" And so like I started digging deeper and deeper, and I got through all these layers of like, not necessarily rejection, but their perception of why it would not work.
Yeah.
And so they were just like, they're like, "It came in the mid-teens on like a delivered product to us, and it needs to be at $9. And so I was like, "If I can go find somebody that can make this, manufacture, put it on a pallet and ship it to your door at $9, would you distribute this?" And remember, this company distributes in Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. So like all the big box stores of home improvement. And so they're like, "Well, yeah, of course we would." And so like and this is the part like I want to impress upon everybody is, whenever you get rejection, you need to figure out why. And not only why, but break it all the way down to the point of, it's essentially like, here's the problem. And like, Amy Jo, you know this as well as anybody, like,
Yeah.
we're inventors. We solve problems. And like, don't take rejection as rejection.
No, there are so many ways, like just even with them responding to us, I take that as an invitation. So even like when they say this is not going to be like a right fit or whatever, then like it's an invitation to understand why and to actually like build upon the relationship with them. Whether it be improving your product, solving their problems, or and maybe it's that, because I've had some students that were pitching products that they're like, we like it, but we already have something super close in this line. Okay, well, what else are you looking to improve upon in other lines, right? Like, so there's always, you have to be confident enough to ask questions. And a lot of people are like scared to ask questions because they feel like they look like amateurs, when really you look more like a professional when you're diving deeper in.
You're pressing.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, okay, you hire an attorney and for any type of category, but let's say you hire an attorney, right, to help us. Let's negotiate this deal. And the attorney says, they ask you a bunch of questions because they need to know it inside and out in order to be able to properly position you in the best deal possible. And I'm not saying that you guys need to be an attorney at all. Like, I'm not saying it's like legal questions. It's just about gathering your information so you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And those are, and that's an attorney. I mean, they're literally paid to do that, but they start asking questions. And so when you get yourself in that position of rejection, when a company's saying no, find out why. Like they're opening the door, because what they're saying, they're not saying no, they're saying we have a problem with moving this thing forward. Because when they saw it initially, they're like, we're excited. We think we can sell this. We think we can make money at it. But when they say no after that, it's essentially them stepping back and saying, we have a problem, or we have something we can't fix.
And sometimes it can be something that doesn't even have anything to do with your product. It could be a change in staff. The decision maker.
That's actually a big one.
That happens so often, where they pass the buck to someone else, or the person who's your cheerleader leaves.
Or gets promoted even.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're gone.
Yeah.
And so like, and I don't like it when it happens. I've had it happen to me multiple times, because you basically start at square one. Like, you got to resell them on the benefits. You got to get them excited, and you got to like essentially bring them up to speed, where you might have spent a year with somebody working out details. And then it's like, all right, we're back to zero. So it usually never goes well when they switch personnel in a deal. But
and that's another tip on this topic, I guess, to extend on that. Like, so once you started to establish a relationship with somebody internally, try to establish more than one relationship in there. Say, hey, I'd like to introduce myself to whoever you're going to be working with, whether it be your product development team, marketing team. If there's anything that I can do to be a helping hand, I want them to feel free to reach out to me, so you can get an idea of like the whole team of who you're working with, and not just relying on that one person.
I'm going to add a little more gold nugget to that in terms of like value, because that's not even just establishing like the value in that, but think about it like this. When you pitch to a company and you get one person that emails you back and says, hey, we're interested, we like this, and you start working with them, like, you don't know who else on the team is involved. It could be literally one person that likes your idea and they're like, I love this, I want to move it forward. And so and I've actually had this happen where I didn't realize, but I'd only worked with that one person for like 8 months, and they hadn't shown anybody else on the team, because they wanted to get like pricing figured out. They wanted to get marketing figured out. They wanted to figure out all these things. So they put them in a package together to present to the team. Essentially, they presented the team's like, that's no good. And so the person was like, all right, well, that's it. And so like, I always like push people to try to involve the rest of the team, try to draw people into the project. And I hadn't thought about that, how you were thinking about it, about like, if one person gets fired or one person like gets promoted or whatever happens, like, I've never thought about it in that aspect of like, all right, if you have a team behind it and you know them and you have relationships, then you just move over to the next team member.
Or at least you can help like pick up the project where it left off if that other person left, because everybody's kind of like in communication. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that you bring that topic up, David, because that topic, along with another one I've been talking to our students about for probably at least the last week and a half consistently. And the other topic is making sure, like, they're like understanding that you can find different ways, like different licensees, and also like building demand for your product by contacting retailers while you're contacting brands.
Mhm.
But the conversations are different,
Yes.
but building that, like, calling Home Depot and asking to speak with the buyer, or the purchasing department, and saying, hey, I'm in the process of bringing this to market. You're not asking them to license it. And they say, cool, we like this. Yeah, when it's ready, give us a call. Say, great, do you have any special relationships who you like to work with, brand wise, who you think would be, interested in helping me out with this, and getting a referral from the buyer. I mean, there are different ways to go about doing that.
And so some of you may know this, and let me make a comment. I see David and Jeffrey, both, you have raised hands. Would you be able to type your question into the question box or the chat box? And so that'll get in the queue as kind of we're doing some chatting here. But like to get back to Amy Jo's point, some of you don't know, but we partner with inventors on projects. And so I'm partnered with an inventor on a project. And what he did was he actually got about 15 retailers that were interested. I mean, there was like 2 or 3 big ones, but they're all smaller, like, regional type retailers. And so then when he made it to his licensee, the licensee's like, we like this, but we don't know if there's a demand. And he's like, well, here's my list of companies that are ready to buy as soon as we have product. They're like, oh, all right,
yeah.
let's move forward.
This.
Yeah. And so it was really interesting because now it took about a year. It's now manufactured. We're getting the price list together, and we're getting essentially a pitch to now go back to that whole list of retailers and say, hey, retailers, like, we've got product ready. We got price list. We can have it like in a retail pop-up. We can have it in these different, like, and so it's like, all right, the inventor, and here's a really cool part, and put this in the back of your mind as you're making deals. So he gets 7% of royalties for any product sold. He gets 10% on top of his 7% on any account he brings in. So he has this big list, of all these retailers. So all of those accounts that he gets 17% royalty.
That's a new story. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And so it's like a very unique way, but like with that option or that way to create a extra royalty, it takes extra work, right? Because now he's out pounding the pavement and getting into retailers and creating accounts and setting up orders and things like that. But he loves the project and he wants to make it all work. And so in doing so, he's getting paid for it. So
yeah, but that helps. It helps also in a couple different directions too, because one is going to build you're packing your own paycheck by helping that company sell more. Mm-hmm. And two, you're building that relationship stronger with the company where they have faith in you now. So if they're looking for other things and you have multiple ideas within their industry, it's going to be easy for them to pick you over someone else for another deal.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the essence of this is like when we're inventors, we pitch to a company and, they get 20, 30, 100, 200 ideas in a quarter, and they look at them and they say, well, which one do we want to pick? These 10 we all like, but this one, the inventor's got a list of retailers that want to buy in. It's like, easy. Yeah. Where do I sign? Potential licensee.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So let's I mean, we could go on for hours like this. Let's jump into the Q&A.
Yeah, let's do this. I would like to address, is it Michael? I think it's Michael, not Michaela. I'm not sure.
Michael.
So it's one of the two.
Yeah, Michael.
Michael. Okay. So he's saying, you know, big corporations can simply steal the idea. I mean, everyone thinks that. Everyone thinks like if you're new to the industry and you don't know how to approach this properly, that's the first. That's why so many inventors have so many great ideas that nobody ever sees. The world never sees because you're afraid that someone's going to steal it, but you just need to know how to approach the process.
And for everybody that's here, I want a raise of hands. Who has had that fear? Like straight up, I have. I mean, that's how I started, was like this fear. Like I want to see everybody in this room put their hand up, because it's part of just kind of our human nature. And because like we see our product as valuable, right? And we see it as we're so small, we don't have any way of protecting it. And so that's just a fear. But when I guess what I found is a lot of people that are in the industry or in the business and they've been in it long enough, they start to see and understand how it works. And I'm not going to say that there's not theft out there. It just doesn't happen the way that inventors think it does.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to being fairly, well, first of all, educated, and then secondly, seasoned. You know, I mean, you and I still learn things every day, you know, with new industries, new behaviors, that type of stuff. But like, if you're just throwing it out there, if you file a PPA or you don't file anything at all, and you put it on Facebook, and then everyone's like, yeah, this looks great or whatever, then someone's going to come along and say, hey, you don't own that. It's in the public domain. I'm going to make it because I can, because I have resources, and I'm going to sell it. So if you do it that way, that's not the best way to go about doing it. But you file a PPA if it's something that you feel has some type of patentability to a certain extent or some level of intellectual property. And then you make sure that you're reaching out to the right types of companies. You don't disclose it in the public domain. Not legal advice, because I'm not an attorney, but this is the way that we do things. You know, if you're smart about it, they're a lot less likely to steal it from you. You have that email trail, you know, that you introduced it. You have that interaction with that. You know, there are things that you can do to show like, hey, this was my idea. We had this conversation.
Yes. And like, I want to reiterate more of what Amy Jo said. Like, so companies aren't set up to steal things, one. And if they do, like, if you create a paper trail and let's see, how do I put this? If you can show that there was an intention to steal, that is very different than an incidental steal. And it's called triple damages. Essentially, you get 3 times sales instead of a royalty. And so that is enough. So, right, if you can show a paper trail of you pitching an idea to a company, and then 3 months later, they file a patent on it. And like, if you show this sequence, right? And I have defended my property. I have filed a lawsuit against a company that has infringed it. And this is where people are like, but David just said nobody steals products. No. When you're pitching a product and it doesn't have a track record of success, then people don't steal it. When it's like a sell sheet and a video demonstration, they're just like, yeah, that's a cool product. But once it rolls out on the market and it has a track record of success, it's selling well, it's making money, they're like, hey, we want to steal it from that company. And that's one thing. I was working with a licensee, and they're like, you know, for the most part, companies don't steal from inventors, they steal from other companies. And so once a company launches it and they see it on the market, then they're like, yeah, now we'll be stealing it. And that's okay, because if you've done everything correctly, then you have the proper intellectual property to defend yourself, and you can turn them into another licensee, in which what I did, like I took this and like, to be honest, like when I saw the infringement, I was actually excited because I knew that that was an opportunity to create a second licensee or a second stream of income off of my product. And that's really all it turned into. Was, yes, we went through the legal process of creating that revenue source, but I mean, that's part of the business. And playing those cards correctly, make it so that you can do that. And I personally, I was fearful of filing a lawsuit. I didn't know what was going to happen, but now that I've been through the process and I can help other people through it, like, I think it was actually like, it was very enlightening, and it was freeing, because now I'm not as scared of other infringement or somebody stealing my product. So
Yeah.
Michael, I hope that helps kind of like alleviate some of that stress. And I know that just a conversation won't do it. It's experience. This is not something that you can learn through a conversation. It's through experiencing and pitching and doing these other things that will actually alleviate this fear and take it off your shoulders.
Well, and and it's also having the right team in your corner of people giving you the proper advice. And I'm not saying that that has to be us, but like, having some guidance with people who are seasoned if you're just getting into this business at all, because it's not as scary as you think. And another thing is too, usually the people that we run across are people who are really innovative people. And so if you just have one idea and that's your baby and that's it, then of course you're going to cling on to that. But if you have 20 ideas and it's like, okay, get them out there, just keep moving.
Yep. I had my baby and I clung on to it for so long. It slowed me down so bad.
I know. Me too.
We all did.
It's my banks. I'm like, it's my baby.
Yep.
But
right. Amy Jo, we're gonna have to get hustling because like 20 questions just came in.
Yeah. All right, David. Not you, David. The other David. Absolutely, we can definitely. You could set up an appointment with us, and we can take a look at what you have for your patents and what you have going on with your NDA, and just kind of give you a consultation. That's not a problem at all.
Cool.
Do you want me to put my calendar link in the chat?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
And then a question. Hello, David and Amy. Do you help a struggling person who has patented product with coaching on a pro bono basis? Shoot me an email, David at Invent Tribe. I guess in that email, let me know. We don't necessarily do pro bono basis, but I don't know, shoot me an email and we can talk. Ray said, David and Amy, you two working together is like Batman and Catwoman. You are absolutely the very smartest. Remember, keep smiling and never give up your dreams. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Love having Ray on. Yeah, Ray's like, he's always cheering everybody on. He's awesome.
It's so sweet.
Tony said, will either of you be attending the Michigan Inventors Expo August 18th? Yes, I will be there. In East Lansing, there is Inventors Expo on August 18th. So I will be there at that event. Next question. I'm going to jump over to the chat. Hey, product.
So here's David's email address. It's david@inventtribe.com. And then mine is just amyjo@inventtribe.com.
Christopher said, okay.
Sorry, am I messing up the thread?
No, not at all. I was just reading. Chris Landano, owner of Inventor Rescue. If you guys want to check out his website, he does some wonderful stuff for the inventor and inventing industry. He said, I have a patent, I have sales, YouTube videos, I have retailers that want to carry the product. I have proven commercial viability in several big consumer markets. I've reached out to all the small and big tool belt companies and haven't gotten a response from many of them. Any ideas? I have had some of the companies tell me they are strictly cut and sew, and because my product adds injection molding parts, it's not their wheelhouse. And so they have decided to pass. Chris.
This is Chris Lindano?
Chris Lindano. He's got
okay.
The Track Belt 360.
Yeah, I know you. Hi, yeah. Chris. How are you?
So Chris, first thing is if they are pushing back and saying we're a cut and sew industry or cut and sew company, because the big thing is these big tool belt companies, they own the distribution, right? They're elbowing people out and making sure that they own the shelf space on Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, Walmart, all the big box stores, because that is where they make all their money. And so they're making sure they got the sharp elbows to keep their section clear. And that, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. It's just, you got to find a way to partner with them. And so one of the ways to do that is doing like Track Belt 360 powered by Stanley, Track Belt 360 powered by Craftsman. So you're partnering with these companies, you're shipping them ready-made product on a pallet so that they can then put their logo on it, or you'll put their logo on it, obviously with their permission, and then they're distributing. So essentially you can turn into a white label manufacturer and distributor. I've done this with another product where the inventor wanted to get into big box store, but big box store doesn't want to carry a single SKU or 2 or 3 SKU. They want the 10, 15, 20 SKU or more company. And so you would be able to then call these companies and say, you don't have to make this. I can just put your logo and sell it to you at a wholesale price so that you can then sell it through your distribution chain. That's one idea. You had a secondary question here. Amy Jo, if you have anything else to fill in while I read.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reading too because I was trying to find it.
Oh, yes. You said you haven't gotten them to respond. And this is something that, Chris, you and I can talk about offline. We can chat. But you're saying they're not responding. And one thing I want to know first is, are you calling and having a conversation with them first? A lot of people, when they're getting in, they're doing like cold emailing. And what I found, cold emailing, cold LinkedIning, you're not going to get responses once you have phone conversations. Because like, I want everybody on this webinar, on Facebook, on wherever you're watching this, to think about your own inbox. If you get an email from some random person with a link to go somewhere, where does it typically go?
Read, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not clicking anything. I don't know who it's from. But if you just have a phone conversation with Chris Landano, and then 30 seconds later, an email pops in your inbox that says Chris Landano, the track belt, like, you click these things.
Yeah.
And so that's why I impress upon everybody that like phone calls are one of the most powerful ways to actually get your product licensed, because they will open your email if they just have a phone call with you, instead of like cold email, cold LinkedIn. Even though it can be effective for some people, other people it's not. And so you have to resort back to calling. So that's why I want to have a call with you offline here and talk about the strategy and kind of what you're doing right now, because that might be your missing link, is just doing too much cold and trying to warm that lead up by a phone conversation.
Yeah. Well, and even with what you're saying, to support what you're saying, David, is like, even if if the person doesn't answer the phone, but you pay attention to the person who does answer the phone and says, hey, it's going to be Beth in marketing. My name's Susan. Then when you send Beth over an email, you say, Susan told me you're the appropriate point of contact. So you name drop a little bit, and that still is a warmer lead than just dropping out of nowhere.
Yeah. And you could even put it in your subject line. Susie sent me over to you.
Yeah.
Susie said you're the person to talk to. And that's your subject line. Like, because then they're like, oh, Susie sent him. I got to talk to this person.
Yeah.
Right.
Referred by Susie.
Yeah. And Susie's your way in.
Yeah.
Even though Susie didn't even know it.
Yep.
And so Chris actually had a follow-up comment. He said, I have a construction supply company that wants to distribute it nationwide, but they want nothing to do with manufacturing. That is an awesome opportunity. Possibly every inventor is different. Every inventor wants to kind of run their own life differently, right? Some people want to be royalty check inventors. Some people want to build a business, but sometimes you get a product that's already halfway through the pipeline that you've got to keep going with. So figuring out a path, and this is one of the deals that I've structured in the past, is where the inventor was responsible for manufacturing, but set up manufacturing, and over a year or two, it was 1 year, has gotten themselves somewhat out of that manufacturing and logistics role, because now they do a purchase order. It comes in, they forward it to the manufacturer produces it, puts it on a pallet, ships it to them. And then they just become the invoicer. And here's the big difference, or here's the cool difference. When you're getting a royalty, let's just say it's $10 right? And you're getting 5% of $10, you're getting 50 cents a unit. But when you're the supplier, you're probably selling it to them at, $4, $8, $4 or $6, and you're manufacturing it for 2 or 3. And so now you have a profit margin of $2 or $2.50 when before you were at a 50-cent margin. And so even though it takes a little bit more responsibility and a little more action on your part, you can bump from 50% to $2.50 per unit. So it could be a good option.
Well, and so I'm glad you brought that up. I know we have to get through all of these, but even though we specialize in licensing, we know about both sides of like venturing versus licensing, selling online, all of that stuff. So we can help to answer those types of questions as well. And Chris, make sure to shoot both of us over an email with your information and schedule a call with David, and you guys can review with that stuff, or I'd like to be on it too, because it just sounds like a fun conversation. But we'll definitely be able to point you in the right direction.
Cool. Yeah, no one, but it's AC Moon said patents don't have value without demand. In my experience, I agree. They have some value if they're, being infringed upon, but really it's hard to sell a patent without it being produced or sold.
And even if you try to sell it, usually you're lucky if you break even. Like if somebody says, I'll just buy your patent from you. If you're not selling the product, there's not really a whole lot of value for the product.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey, I have had a patent search completed on my invention. We called, my associate will handle the cost for coaching. Do you recommend as the best process for me? David. Oh, sorry. All right. Let me read this here to myself so I can figure it out. David. Coaching before. My associate will handle the cost of coaching. What do you recommend as the best process for me, David? Has coached me before, and despite setbacks, we're ready to proceed. Which of the tribe programs should we join as our ability to pay has improved? We want the PPA and restart with the tribe. Awesome, Jeffrey. So sorry to give everybody, I was kind of reading to myself there on that question. Jeffrey was one of our past students, and he's got things moving forward and is getting back into the tribe. So Jeffrey, I'll reach out to you and we can talk about kind of best programs to move forward. For everybody else, Invent Tribe has a handful of different programs that we help people through coaching. And so we kind of discuss that on a one-on-one basis to figure out what program best fits. And then we'll go from there. I don't know. So yeah, welcome back, Jeffrey.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Damien.
I was going to say,
Damien.
So to give everybody history, I coached Damien years ago, and then Amy Jo coached Damien.
Yes. Miss you. Good to see you on here. Okay. YouTube when an inventor license a product and the product is about to hit the market, does the product go into all the doors they're affiliated with or some of the stores? Think in advance. Okay.
So like, let me reiterate this question, then we can go from there. So what Damien's asking is, when an inventor licenses a product, is when the product's about to hit the market, does the product go into all the stores affiliated with the company that they've licensed with? Right. And you got it.
Well, I mean, from my experiences, I mean, it just kind of depends on the market that the product falls into. Sometimes they'll do like a trial run in a certain area that they feel it'll be popular in, or otherwise they'll have, like, if it's like a nationwide type of thing, they'll try like a trial run with small run of units per store before they learn. So like, let's say it's a fishing type of unit, then they'll try stores that are based around like where people are actually fishing. Like if they have access to Walmart, but they're not going to be selling this in stores in the Walmart locations that don't really pertain to fishermen locations. For that but like, on the coast and even here in the Midwest or whatever, but like, they're not going to be going anywhere where people aren't going to actually be fishing.
And so, and also when retailers are afraid, I don't want to say afraid, I don't know a better word right now, but they're not as confident in a new innovation because it's a new innovation, right? And so if they're buying a pallet per store, that freaks them out because Walmart has 5,000 stores, and if they're getting 100 units per store and they don't sell, well, they've got a lot of product now. And so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just buy for 300 stores. They'll test regionally and or they'll test with a volume of stores. And so that test takes a year. And so when it launches or hits the market, you have 1 year of essentially test stores. If all those test stores go well, then Walmart looks at it and says, all right, it went well in 300 stores, let's do 3,000. And that's another 6 month to a 12-month test. But if it goes gangbusters in the first test, then they just fill all the stores. And so, I mean, it depends on the market, depends on the region, depends on the product. But typically what you're going to see is your first year royalties. If you make over $1,000, woohoo, because normally royalty checks, because I had an inventor, they emailed me, they're like, what the hell? Like, it was like an $18 check. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I'm like, they're like, what do you mean this is awesome? I'm like, you're getting paid for your invention. And like, this is how it always starts. Like, I mean, my first royalty check, I think was like $80 or something. And like, I got one this year that was like 70 grand. And so like, it goes like this.
Yeah.
So you gotta be able to like,
I think my first royalty check, or I had one at one point for 68 cents.
Yeah. Like
68 cents. And I was like, so hey, like, I'm a professional inventor now. Like,
yeah, boom.
Yeah, it happens,
So, Damien, I hope that helps you. And also, I'd love to get an email from you, or Amy Jo, email us, because we'd like to connect further.
For sure. That was a great question, though. Thank you for bringing that up.
Derek, I have an in-person meeting. Whoa, very soon. It's my second one with the same company. I would never tell them how to market something, but could I make a suggestion with marketing? Derek, I'm going to need some more information. Did you license the product already? Or is this a meeting to license the product? It sounds like you've already licensed it, right? Let me see.
I don't know. I can't tell. I agree. We need more information. Because we have to be careful. If he hasn't already licensed it, then
it's a very different story.
You don't want to overstep boundaries. Yeah. Got to be careful. But as long as your attitude is, this is just a suggestion, which you can do whatever you want to do, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to play inventor. This is me, and you have to do things my way. It's all about the approach with the way that you interact with them.
Yeah. I mean, and that hits the nail on the head, because I've found you can say some very like terrible things, but if you say it in the right tone, it can still fly.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time, this was kind of funny, because I had a really good relationship with my licensees, and so I was like, and imagine if you just asked a question out of the blue. Like, you can't just ask this out of the blue.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, and the guy's name was Mike. It was funny because the marketing director was Mike and the product lead was Mike. So it was always the Mike and Mike show every time I got on the call. So
yeah.
I was like, all right, guys, have you ever given an upfront fee for licensing a product? They're like, yeah. I was like, awesome. What's the most you've ever given? And they're like, it's like 50 grand. I was like, awesome. Do you think I could get 50 grand? And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Can I get 50 grand? And they're like, send it to us in an email. We'll forward it to the CEO and see if he's okay with it. And so then I sent it to him an email, and a week later, the CEO approved it. And,
oh my gosh.
And it's like, but like, take that out of context, right? Take that out of like
Yeah.
the whole story and just say, like, if an inventor called up a company and was like, hey, I've got this new innovative product. Can I get $50,000 up front plus an ongoing royalty? It's like, click, right?
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
who are you? And so like, Derek, that's why I say, like, you can say the wrong thing in the right way and still get what you want. But it's making
Or say the
sure.
right thing in the wrong way and not get what you want.
Yeah. And so that's why, like, Amy Jo and I are asking for context of your situation, because we don't want to tell you the wrong thing to ask, because we need to know, have you licensed the product, one, and two, if you have, is it on the market presently? Like, are they doing a poor job? Like, I had one company that they knew they were doing a poor job, and they actually reached out to me. They said, Dave, this is not selling. What's going wrong? And I went and looked through their marketing material. It was really funny because it matched my original marketing material, and my marketing material evolved along the way. It was a very demonstratable product, and they had just a picture of it as my beer pitcher. And so, like, you don't know what the beer pitcher does until you see it in video format. And so, like, they converted all their marketing over to video format, and they started selling. So sometimes, Derek, it helps a lot by interjecting, because they might be screwing stuff up.
Well, and also with when it comes to the marketing thing, I mean, a lot of the times we have more information about marketing tips than they do, because we're reaching out to more people. So we get that feedback,
Yep.
you know, from companies saying this is what we like about it and what we don't like about it.
And that was the whole story of this, because, like, with that product, I had pitched it before and I hadn't gotten feedback, where they had never pitched this before. So they didn't have the experience. And so, like, that's the funny part about this. Like, we as inventors, we always think like, oh, we don't know as much as other companies, but in reality, we know the most about our product in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't know anything about licensing, you don't know anything about manufacturing, you know the most about your product in the entire world, because it's your product and you've thought about it, you've studied it, you've worked with it all the way through its own journey.
And circling back to making sure that you ask questions when you're submitting.
Yep. All right. We're going to have to go hot seat on this, because
okay, hot seat.
we have 14 minutes left and we have 17 questions.
Okay, let's do this.
So, David Mosley, he has a product. It's a must-have product that every car manufacturer and vehicle owner will love to have in their vehicle. My product solves problems from the average motorist. I didn't know if David had a question earlier aligned with that. So, David, if you do have a question, I might have missed it.
So to try to answer your question based off of that note, if it's an aftermarket product, usually in the vehicle industry, it's easier to license than if you think that it's going to be built into like a manufacturing facility such as Ford or BMW or whatever.
Yeah. So go licensing if you're in the car product industry.
And aftermarket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. She did that trade NDAs and had lots of conversations with me.
Sorry, we're both reading. We're both getting caught up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're all kind of bebopping all over the place right now.
Ooh, I got an interesting one that I don't know. I haven't had experience actually doing this. This is the first time in a couple of years I've actually had a question I haven't had experience doing. Does anyone have experience licensing a trade secret where the company does not want to patent the process? I have not.
I've heard of those, but like that happening, but
I've never coached anybody on that. That's so, like, I tell everybody in webinars, like, it's like every couple of years there's somebody that has a question that I've never done before, and it's licensing a trade secret.
I've worked with students, like I think 2 students on trade secrets, but neither one of them got deals as far as I know, at least up to date.
So I guess, so the company doesn't want to patent the process. That's interesting. Simple then. If they don't want to patent the process, because here's the interesting thing about patents. Patents can be invalidated and they can expire. They can,
well, and they reveal the process. That's the problem.
Yeah, and they reveal the process. And so what you want the licensing deal to be about is about the product or the process. So you're not getting paid based off of a patent. And this is actually to your advantage. You do not want to get paid off of a patent because patents can be invalidated. They can expire, right? So let's say you license a trade secret. Well, trade secrets are based on them producing a result. Well, you get paid if you can do an actual licensing deal off of this. You'll get paid as long as they're producing this result. But if you license a patent, as soon as that patent expires or becomes invalidated or whatever happens to it, then you're done getting paid. And so licensing a trade secret is like licensing a product in terms of deal structure. And you would just then get paid based off of when the outcome is produced, you would get paid.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I love the concept of trade secrets. Because like, it's like the concept of like, if you guys have ever heard of like kinetic sand, right? Like kids play with this kinetic sand that has magnets in it. And so, you can do all these different things. It's kind of like the modern day version of Play-Doh. And so if you say, hey, I have a special way to make this kinetic sand, or a special way to make Play-Doh that's way better, it lasts longer, and you're able to communicate that. That if you do have a trade secret, though, I'm not a big fan of NDAs, but you need to have an NDA for that.
Very strong attorney written NDA.
Yeah. And because normally these companies are probably going to be larger companies if you're talking about a trade secret type of thing, but you have a trade secret, and then it's never your agreement. If they license it, your agreement is between your company and that company, and that they are not allowed. It's kind of like a gag clause. Nobody allowed, including their employees, are allowed to disclose how this product is made. So nobody can work around you. They don't see a patent and say, hey, here's a hole, here's a hole, here's a hole, because they have to figure it out themselves if they want to try to work around you or copy you.
Yep. And you're not paid on if it gets publicly disclosed or not. You're just getting paid if they're producing the results. Yep. And so like they tell it to the world, well, then that's on them for losing the opportunity to keep it a trade secret, because you're going to continue to get paid. And that's how you should structure that deal.
Yep.
So, and if you do have more questions or wanted to follow up, do email us, David or Amy Jo at InventTribe. So Chris Landano did a follow-up. I don't want to manufacture. I'm already 600K into this from many mistakes. I've proven it myself as a huge mistake problem. Manufacturing is just not in the cards for me right now. Okay. If you have manufacturing already set up, which I believe you do, there is an opportunity to then essentially license out your manufacturing line or your sourcing, in which they can pay you upfront cash for. This is like a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want a big buyout upfront. In Chris's case, this is actually where you can get buyout cash upfront to make that work, or to essentially become a little more whole and then continue to get royalties on it. So next question, Glenn.
Yes.
Sorry, we were both reading. Glenn asks, I've been through coaching with another company. I have a sell sheet and a video done, also PPA in place. I need assistance in getting in a negotiation. Can you do a customized consult? Yes, that's what we do. As Amy Jo kind of puts it best, we're a boutique shop. We focus on helping specific people with getting products licensed on coaching level, on actually partnering with them and helping them through the process and getting the deal.
Mm-hmm. So my if you didn't get that, Glenn, I have my calendar link in there. Otherwise, you can email us and you can book an appointment with either me or David, and I can kind of walk you through that, of what all that looks like.
Awesome.
Christopher, is 3D printing an option? Always. If you're able to. Wait, that's not Landano though.
It's two. Well, no. I think Michael was asking if.
Oh, okay.
He was asking if Chris Landano had 3D printing as an option, which I think it is, but he already has manufacturing set up, but there's no sense in 3D printing.
Going backwards. Got it.
And then Chris had another follow-up. Yes, many of them I've spoken to at trade shows, and then took it to follow-up meetings in which they pass. But I do have one right now interested, and I'm trying to close the deal in an upcoming call, which maybe you can help with. Yeah, I'd love to help. Just let me know, and we can get in. David Mosley said, "You guys are bringing forth some very key points. I'm loving it."
Very cool, David. Thank you.
Yeah. And this is another one. If a company states that they like the product and they are seeing the path to market is clear, practical materials, inexpensive to manufacture, but they don't see a large market, but you do, how do you keep momentum? Love that question. So there's two key things that stop inventors from moving forward. And Amy Jo, this is a perspective, so you can contradict this if you feel differently.
Okay.
I see the two big things that stop companies from moving forward are the question mark around demand and then their desire for investment. Like a lot of companies, they're skeptical on the level of investment that they need to make. And so they're like, I don't know if I want to make this, $100,000 investment because I don't necessarily know, right, if there's the demand or a large enough market for it. And so those are the two biggest stumbling blocks I see in licensing. And so some of the recommendations that I've made are things like, all right, if a company says, we love it, we see it as an opportunity, but we don't know if the market's large enough, you can come to them and say what Amy Jo was talking about earlier. What if I go get retail buyers? They'll be like, if you can get a retail buyer to sign on to this, we will sign up for this deal, or we'll sign a licensing deal. And a lot of times that's all it takes is them signing on, or you making sure that they have essentially a buyer that is willing to buy this at scale to make it work.
Yeah. It's really about reducing, you need to make them, you have to reduce their risk. So, or their concern for the risk, right? So when it comes to licensing, if it's an improvement to something that's been selling, like the clothing hanger or the hammer or something that's been selling forever, and you just improve that a little bit, it's, not expensive to manufacture. You see, it's an obvious thing that people are going to want. Then that risk is low. If it's something that's like a really, really new, innovative product, or maybe it's a highly complicated product that there's a lot more that's going to go into it, they want to see some type of proof of demand that they're going to get their money back. It's all about money. I mean, it's about innovation for us. For us, it's about innovation. For them, it's about money.
It's a math problem.
Yeah. So it is.
Because like the operators of businesses, they're more looking at how does the math work and how can I make more money at it? Because they want a low input or low investment product that produces high returns. And the more that we can show them that problem works, the more of an opportunity that we have of actually putting the licensing deal together.
Yep.
So like the easier you can, or the more you can ease their pain tolerance of bringing on buyers, showing buyers are interested, then you inch closer and closer to that deal. Another way that I've done it, which I don't necessarily recommend, is if you get a company that says, and I have to like give this context because people will take this out of context and run with it, is if you get a company interested and they're like, we're interested, but we need demand, you can say, what if I got buyers? And if they said no to that, which I think would be crazy, if they said no to that, then I would step back to what if I crowdsourced or crowdfunded it? So essentially, if I got, $20,000 in sales and use that money to invest in molds and distribution, would you want to do it from there? I've had inventors go that route, but realize that crowdfunding is a completely different skill set than inventing and licensing. And so you need venturing. Or venturing. It's like learning email marketing, learning internet marketing, advertising, driving traffic. Those are completely different skill sets than what we do. And so you're jumping into a completely different business model that might not be in your wheelhouse, especially as a creative.
Well, another thing I want to throw out too, because I've had a couple students who've partnered on projects that were fairly affordable for their budget. So like the company said, you only need to invest like 5,000 or 8,000 or something like that towards the tooling to make us to give. It went from 5% of royalty, just a license, or you can partner and give us $8,000 towards the tooling, and we'll give you 50% of the profits. And it was affordable for her to be able to do that. She had the money to do that, so didn't even need to do crowdfunding. She just had it in the bank account. She's like, I'd rather have 50% of the profits than just 5%. You know, so every deal is going to be unique, like we always say. But I guess in order to answer your question in short is really if a company, like if you see a larger market than the company does, then we need to figure out why that company does not see that market. Like, do they not know how to market it? Again, are your materials communicating effectively? Or do we need to reduce the risk?
Yep. And this was interesting story. I had a student a little while ago, and they had pitched the product and they got the same exact answer. So the market is not large enough. And so then like we stepped back and we kind of spitballed it back and forth and did a little brainstorm on it. And it's like, well, this is not the only market, and it wasn't conveyed in the marketing material. And so then she revamped all the marketing material and went and repitched it back to her whole list. And she actually got 3 offers on one product that she got no offers on. Nothing changed on the product. It was just the marketing material change showing the larger market. And once that larger market was seen and visualized, and like, they're like, oh, now we see the impact of this product. And in reality, that was in the inventor's head the whole time. It just wasn't conveyed in the marketing material appropriately. Mm-hmm. And so through the conversation that her and I had, they're like, what do you mean it's not a big enough market? It can go for this and this and this and this and this. And I'm like, it doesn't show that in your marketing material. She's like, yeah. Well, they would just infer it. And I'm like, no, they wouldn't.
They don't.
And they just like, it's like they have blinders on and they see what they see. Yep. And that's it. And so like, if you you can revamp your marketing material to show a larger market of what's available. Because we are at the top of the hour, we're going to go after. I do appreciate everybody that stuck around for the hour. Some people usually have to jump off at the hour. We will keep going because crazy enough, we just got 25 questions in. I don't know if you can see it came in. So we're going to try to work through them. And if we don't, do email me or Amy Jo, and we can help you with your question if you don't get it answered. But yeah, 25 questions in the last 10 minutes. So,
I love how you guys wait until like the last half of the hour to throw it. Yeah.
So James said, do you think I should have a checklist to start this business? No.
Yes.
No. And well, okay.
You need a strategy.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. I'm very different. Well, okay. Well, this is funny. So in licensing, I never read a book. I've never read a book on inventing or licensing. I picked up one inventing book and I read the first 10 pages, closed it, and then just started going. So in that respect, I'm very different. Like I don't look at things and say, I need a checklist. I just start doing, right? I'm action oriented, and then I just continually fail. And that's why I'm like a very good coach, because I have so many failures. Like I failed a lot for a long period of time. And so like, I can tell everybody, they're like, oh my God, this is happening to me. I'm like, that happened to me too, because I did that.
And don't do it like David does it. Learn first, then execute.
Yeah. So James, I guess I have to retract my earlier comment.
I think that's really funny that you say that, because I literally was on the phone call with somebody earlier. I was going to say earlier this week, but that was just yesterday or within the last week. And said David takes pride in making jokes about like all of his failures because he's learned so much from them, and that's why he's so successful. But David likes to hit his head against the brick wall a few times before he learns.
Too many, trust me.
Yeah. So anyway, but yet he's the best teacher I've ever known, and that's why we're working together. But so he knows what he's talking about. But To answer your question, yes, you need a checklist on what to do in
do what Amy Jo says, not what I say right now.
Yes.
So if I like that, I don't know. Like I love the do orientation. And so and you can really extract that from the training that I created, because like my training is not, I mean, it is checklist oriented, where it's like, here's a 3-minute video of how to do a Google search. Now go do it.
Yeah.
And so like, if you have things sequenced that way, it's not like you sit down, because I feel like a lot of people get contained into like, all right, what do I need to do next on my checklist? Where like I do daily checklists where it's like, all right, I've got to get these 3 things done.
Yep.
And that's more like goal structure. So like James, I guess I would step back and I wouldn't do a checklist, but I would do like, what are my next goals for this week? Because if you break it down into weekly goals and you can accomplish them, you get this compounding effect where you start to have like, all right, I'm starting to see these massive results. Well, you don't have those massive results unless you have these little steps along the way in sequence. And so like having a checklist, understanding what those sequences are, really can get you to the point of like having success. So yes, do have a checklist, but consider it more like a goal list.
Just kind of like a to-do list type of thing. It's because, I mean, everybody learns differently. But what I've seen with a lot of the students that I've worked with, I mean, and I can relate to this as well. If you try to dive into a program and learn the whole program before executing anything at all, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be sidetracked. You're going to be thinking of ideas, and you're not going to be executing anything, so you pick a project, you take it step by step and do those steps. And then you're going to start to feel and see that momentum happening and your project actually coming to life, as opposed to it still collecting dust in your brain,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And seeing those results motivates, right?
Yes.
It starts to spin the wheel faster and starts to get more excited and emotionally involved. And with that comes more success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I really prefer that like action orientation of like goal setting instead of checklisting. It's kind of like a different mentality.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. I love how you were like, no, I'm like, yes.
Well, and like, I love contradicting opinions because it brings out the light of reality. Right?
Sure. Definitely.
You should have a checklist.
Well, we're speaking the same language. We're just speaking it differently.
We are.
Whatever. That's contradictive, but you get what I mean.
Yep. Jamerico. Sorry if the pronunciation is wrong. May I ask what produces each? There's probably misspelling. David and Amy Jo, have you invented and licensed? And if so, how long was the process? The length of the process for me. So a lot of people don't know this, but as Amy Jo was talking about, I bang my head against the wall a lot of times. I attempted 18 products, and that freaks people out when they're like, David had to do 18 products before he licensed a product. But here was the cool part. I licensed number 18, 19, 19, 20, and 21. Right. And so I tried 18, number 19, 20, and 21 got licensed. So at that number 19, I figured something out. All the pieces started to click, and I started to understand how to actually license products. And it wasn't that like, and then I started actually going back, and I'm now relicensing some of those products that were in the 1 through 18 because they were licensable products. I just didn't know the process, right? Because there's 2 things that converge, right? There's a couple of things. It's your learning and understanding, right? You have to have an educational understanding, you have to have work ethic, and then you have to have a good product. Once those 3 things come together, then you can license products. Where a lot of people, they will lack work ethic, or they'll lack understanding of what to do, or they'll just have a product that doesn't fit in the marketplace. And so like I had products that fit in the marketplace. I had the work ethic because I'm crushing it on 18 products, sell sheets, videos, prototypes, PPAs, filed, pitched to, 20, 30 companies. Think about that. If I pitched 18 products to 20 companies each, that's a lot of pitching. That's a lot of experience. And so like I had to fail a lot to understand. And now like typically my students, they don't, and this is a hard one to swallow too. Typically my students don't license their first product. but a lot of times they license their third product. And so it's those inventors that stick around. They pitch their first product, they learn something. They pitch their second product, they learn even more. Their third product, they've learned enough and understand enough now that they actually license it. But a lot of inventors don't stick around to try 3 products.
Yep.
That's
you have to love it. You have to love the process. So it's like, and so sometimes it can be multiple products. Like my first deal was my first product and I licensed it within 3 months. But then I had a lot of manufacturing issues because I didn't know enough to ask the right types of questions. They tried to put the product, the components upside down, and it didn't work. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was a hassle. And so the deal came in 3 months, but the process ended up being a lot longer than that. And then I pitched 3 more products, licensed another one, then ended up losing that deal because I got it because of the name, and then I lost it because of the name. So that was a whole different story too. Like, so everything, I mean, everyone's going to have their own story, but you have to be in this game because you want to be, and you can't give up. You have to keep hitting your head against that brick wall like David does. And then you're going to be, eventually you're going to get a win.
Yeah. And like, one of the things I love is like, you learn from failures, but the best failures to learn from are other people's. You know what I mean? Like you don't actually have to fail that many times. Right. Yeah. And that's why like my students, they don't have to pitch 18 products. I already did that. And, I know how to tell the stories and convey the information so that people don't have to go through those experiences and have to take that kind of time to get there. So that's kind of length of process. With a follow-up question, Jamerico had, tell us more about where you're headed.
This doesn't make any sense, this one.
Well, I think I know what this is. How will you maximize this $20,000 grant to meet your next milestone? So I'm assuming that they have a $20,000 grant to meet their next milestone. Please be as specific as possible in 250 words. Okay. If you have $20,000 to invest, learn what you're doing, put in the work, and then try multiple products. And don't
don't waste money on formal patents or prototyping or manufacturing.
Get it? Because like I
generate the interest
in the Invent Tribe program. You are to pitch a product and get interest for less than $100 on a product, right? A lot of people invest more in other things. Like here's the silly part is a lot of inventors will take and invest a ton of money. They'll just keep throwing money at it because they think like developing it further, building better prototypes, filing more patents is what is valuable to a potential licensee. But in reality, it's not that. It's the benefit of the product. And so boiling it down to that, right? If you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, 20% of the actions produce 80% of the results. Well, your 20% of actions that you take are conveying a benefit to a potential licensee. So if you can do that for less than $100, which you can, I've done it over and over again. I'm in deals right now that I've done it and I'll continue to do it. So like, I'll literally take $100 bill and turn it into a licensing deal. And it just takes work and knowledge the rest of the way. And those two things don't come from dollars. So when people tell me I've got this much, where should I invest it? I'd say, put it in the bank, let it collect interest while you go figure out how to do this business. Because this is not a business that takes money. It takes learning what to do and then doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Spend your money wisely and your time.
Yep. Sammy said, do any of you guys software that draws our designs? No, we don't have design software, and I don't teach design software because I don't know anything about design software. Reason being is because when I get a potential licensee interested, they always want to redesign it with their own people. And so their own people will do the CAD work. I actually had somebody ask me, was it today? Yeah, it was today. They're asking me like, do I know CAD? Do I know design? I'm like, no, I don't know any of those, because potential licensees, even if you do it, you send it to them and they'll redo it because they want it to look like their own product.
But you can find somebody very cost effectively if you need it. Like if you want to 3D print something or whatever on Fiverr or Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
to help you with that. Well, that's what David and I do. If we need that, we just outsource it.
Oh yeah. And I don't want to fall short on that information. So thank you. Like if companies do ask you for it, don't just tell them no. We can figure it out, right?
Mhm.
Fiverr's
Yeah.
great resource. Fiverr.com.
Yeah.
There's vendors or artists that create for you. Another question. Thank you. Good feedback. Absolutely will use my NDA, not just theirs. Oh, this is the trade secret question.
Okay.
Next one. If a company shows a clear interest and a liking into your concept, states that they can see a clear path. Oh, this question. That just is a replicated question.
Okay.
Brandon said, do you have packaging help options? Depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for sourcing packaging or packaging design options? I've had my own packaging design for my own products. And it depends on what the company's asking for. I've had potential licensees ask me to help with the design process in terms of branding. So I guess, Brandon, you'll need to dive in a little bit further on what those options are or what they're looking for packaging.
Great. Yeah.
This one's from AJ. What are your thoughts on Market Blast? Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, so to me, it's still fairly new to me. And so I've been kind of playing around with it and seems like it's easy to use. It's been free for me up to date. But in my opinion, I'm not trying to take business away from anyone. I just feel like I just always feel like it's best for you to learn how to create your own custom list for all of your products, because it doesn't matter if it's kitchenware, there are micro categories in every single large category, right? So you need to know what your keywords are, how to find those types of companies that play in your space, because if you try to go for that umbrella type of category, you're going to always end up being a little bit disappointed, because you're going to wind up in people's inboxes that don't necessarily pertain to what you're trying to pitch, you know? So, but I mean, I don't know for sure. It's not really a direct answer. I don't have anything negative to say about Market Blast,
No.
but I don't have a whole lot of experience with them either.
Yep. They're very new to the market. And so they're kind of an untested entity.
Yeah.
I know the owners of it. And so I can see myself using it in the future to test it out to see if it works for me. But I'm on the same page with Amy Jo. I haven't used it enough or seen any results come from it to be able to recommend or say no to it.
Yeah. I don't think that it's harmful. Like, I mean, unless they change things up, like if you want to try it out, I don't think that it would do any harm to you for you to get your own opinion about that. And then let us know too, what you guys think.
Yep. And then, so then David said over on the Q&A, oh, wait, I missed a big one. Q&A, I have a company potentially interested on my invention, but they want to see a prototype. Giorgio. So I'm struggling to get my SketchUp drawings to be converted to a format that can be worked at a machine shop. A lot of frustration with STL two-step conversion and all kinds of technical issues. Also, because I obviously realize that my drawings are not done with enough precision to be machined. So my question is it an inventor's responsibility to get all these manufacturing issues figured out? Or is it possible to just stay at the concept level, providing extensive and nice 3D drawings, even though not usable for machining? In other words, shouldn't it be the licensee one taking care of these technical issues, aspects of the prototype and manufacturing? No, it is not their responsibility. And here's the reason why. So here to here, I'm trying to like get it. I'm going to back up my camera. There we go. So here to here. This is a napkin sketch, just a drawing of a product. This is fully manufactured on the shelf, selling produced product, right? And so there's a continuum along here of the product, and products get licensed here, when they're usually simple and straightforward. There's something that you can literally show somebody a picture and they're like, I get it. I know how to make it. I don't need any more information. And they'll be like, all right, let's do it. And so some products, they need to be all the way here before somebody's willing to make that jump, because there's technical issues with it. There's manufacturing issues, and they don't know if the demand would be there, right? So that's why some products get licensed here, some products get licensed here. And we don't know as inventors where along that continuum that they will get licensed. And so we essentially, this is my recommendation, start here. And if you can generate the interest and somebody licenses it and you're at zero level of investment or less than $100, you're getting the same royalty as you would up here. Sorry to say, like people that invest all the way up here, they're getting 5 or 7%. People down here, 5 to 7%, not much different. Usually up here, they get bought out of their assets that they put in, but it's money that they've already invested. They're just getting their cash back. And so,
time.
Yeah, and time. And so one of the projects that I had, I essentially showed them a sketch and they're like, we get it, we want to license it. I signed an agreement. They took it from there. They made manufacturing models. They did engineering. They figured everything else out. Another product that I licensed, the company's like, hey, we like this, but we need a manufacturing model. I was like, all right. So then I had to hire an engineer that worked at a manufacturing company to figure out the parts and pieces, because I didn't know that stuff. And so I had to hire it all out. But here's a thing that I think is very important. I went back to the company and I said, I can figure all these things out. I can hire somebody to get these things done. I don't have the skill set, but what's going to happen once we figure these things out? And they're like, well, we'll license it. So, well, what are we licensing it for? And so in that conversation, essentially I structured out the deal, because I want to know, like, all right, so if I pay the $3,000 to have this engineer do all this work and I show it to them and they're like, hey, thanks. Like, no, I don't want thanks. I want a deal. Like, I want this thing to go through. And so that's where you need to come to them and say, I can get all these things, but I want to know what the outcome is. I want to know and understand what is the end result that we're going to have if these things play out the way that we think they're going to. And so you're not getting a guarantee. You're not going to get them to sign a document that says we will pay you 7%. You're getting them to say, if things work out, if the prototype works like we think it is, and the machined product is the way you say it is, then we'll license it and we'll pay you 5%. And our sales projections are this. And so what I boiled it down to was like, essentially I would be getting paid about $30,000 per year if the product worked like I thought it worked, for a $3,000 investment in engineering. And what that is an investment. What most inventors do is speculation. They throw money at things until it works, or they hope that it works. Where if you get a company to say, we'll pay you this, we'll sell this if these results work, right? And that's a formula for an investment, because now I have a return on the investment that I put in. Giorgio, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, that is the way that I would handle this. It is your responsibility if you want it to move forward further. We want it to be the company's responsibility, but it won't necessarily be the case. So make sure that you understand what it is that you're going to get if the results show that what you both agree is a positive outcome.
Yeah, and reach out to us for that too, because that's kind of what happened in my first deal that messed up, because I relied on the company to try to figure it out, and they're the ones who messed it up. And David was there at the trade show when the samples showed up. Yeah. So, but now on the flip side of the coin, not to confuse people, we're not saying that you don't have to provide samples or prototypes. We're just saying that you don't have to invest thousands of dollars if they want a manufactured sample from you without some level of a commitment from them.
Yeah.
To do that.
And yeah. And I don't want to be, I guess, misleading in the fact that I say, I can get a product license for less than $100, but then here I am saying I spent $3,000 on engineering. You can get a product license for less than $100. But what I'm saying is go get interest. Go get somebody that's saying, we're willing to take your product to the next level. We like it. We love it. We want to invest in it. And sometimes you can even get them to split those investment costs to get the development. They just want you to have skin in the game. So that's how I would handle that. And you can email me or Amy Jo, and we can get in more detail on it.
Yeah.
Amy Jo, I don't think we're going to be able to catch up. There's more questions in the question box than we've got to.
Well, shall we do one more and then wrap it up?
Yes. What if we didn't get to your question, put your email in there or email me with your question or Amy Jo with your question, and we'd love to get to it. So let me see here.
You're always juggling all the boxes, and I can see one, but I don't see the other one.
There's another one. If you click the Q&A or question and answer Q&A, it gives you in a second box. So this is a question from David. We'll make this the last question of the night. Well, it's a two-part question. Why do companies that seem interested ask for money to start the process? I've been asked for $5,000, $10,000, $26,000 to start the process. David, I would guess that you're in the DRTV space or the as seen on TV space if they're asking you for money. And you can, I think you're still on. I saw you. No, you're not on. Well, it'll be recorded. No, there you are. All right, awesome. You're on. Can you answer that if you're in the DRTV or as seen on TV space? I'll be watching for you in the chat, but that is typically the case in the DRTV space because a lot of the times those companies are set up to do service-based. And so they're not necessarily a licensing deal. They're just having you pay for all the development. And then if it works, and they love it and they get a ton of money and you get your regular royalty for your investment level. And so those are the products or those are the deals that usually scare me is when you go to license it to a company and they're like, we will license this for $10,000. You're like, no. You give me the $10,000 and I'll license it to you. Is typically how it's supposed to work. So David, I would very much so hesitate if a company you've reached out to license a product is asking you for cash. That is more than likely not a licensing deal. That is a service-based deal where they get $10,000. They'll probably make a commercial for you and they'll run it on a Facebook ad and
maybe help you with some patent stuff.
Yeah. Well, he said, no, I'm not. He's not in the DRTV space. Interesting. So I guess there's another category that's doing it. David, email me. Email me because I want to know more about that because it's a very DRTV thing to do. It's very for everybody else, DRTV as seen on TV. It's the wait, there's more type space.
Yeah.
And so they get caught up in a lot of the service base where an inventor pitches them a product and they say, hey, we'll do this for $10,000. And they do, and they'll pitch it. And if it doesn't work, they're not out their $10,000. You're out your $10,000, which a lot of inventors kind of get sucked into, which is unfortunate because then you're out your money.
Anytime anybody's asking you, obviously we run a coaching program. We have different levels of coaching and services that we offer at Invent Tribe. But anytime somebody's wanting to charge you money, always make sure to just kind of research their name, look them up.
And what they're doing with your money.
Yeah, what they're doing, what they're known for.
Because like Amy Jo had commented earlier, like one company's like, hey, we'll license this, but we want to partner on it where you pay for half the mold cost.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm getting 50% of profit. Hey, that sounds like a good deal. Right. And David, that might be a scenario where that's advantageous for you and your product. And then like, obviously Invent Tribe and what we do, we charge people for coaching. And then we also charge people for partnership, but that's very different than somebody coming to us and like pitching their idea to us and then us expressing to them that we will license their product, but we need their money to do it. That's a very different business model and it raises red flags in my mind.
And the way that we do it is much different. Like with our partnership program is much different than what anybody else does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have gone 28 minutes over, but I think it was a fun 28 minutes.
Me too.
Yeah, I think we nailed some awesome stuff. And
I love Sammy says, talk more on licensing. Well, Sammy, keep joining us. We'll talk all day long, like David said.
Yeah, I want to start doing some like lives during the week, like just during the day, and see if we can
Yeah.
get people to come on and just chat, like Facebook Live, so it's a little more interactive than just this. So,
Yeah.
but we can do that, where we can plan on it sometime. I do want to thank everybody for coming out. We are doing another webinar. Um, what are we doing it? Thursday night, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is a whole webinar on actually breaking down, because as you probably heard me, I'm talking about the steps in which inventors take to license their products. It's like the checklist we talked about. I guess you can call it the checklist. But it's the checklist of things you need to do to successfully license a product. And so Amy Jo's not joining us for that. It's just me, but I'm breaking down those 5 steps. I go through each one. I give you details on how to do it. And so if you're interested in joining, do join the webinar. We'll put the link here in the chat. Also, if you're interested in signing up for the tribe, we'll put a link in. We don't just let people sign up. We always like to have a conversation first to make sure we're both a good fit for each other. And we are running a special right now, but do reach out to us and we can talk about that special for you. And so I do appreciate everybody.
The special does expire on Friday though. So book that call.
Yeah, it's actually one of the best ones we've had. So
yeah.
So do book that call. It does expire on Friday. So thank you everybody for coming out. I appreciate all the great questions. And yeah, Amy Jo, anything to add?
I'm sending my email out again because CME is asking me about that. So my email is amyjo@inventtribe.com. I'm thinking that I have that right. I've been staring at the computer for way too long now. I can't hardly see. Yeah, you guys feel free to reach out to either one of us. Super simple email formulas. It's david@inventtribe.com or amyjo, AMYJO @inventtribe.com. Let us know if you have any questions. Schedule an appointment with us and we'll be happy to help.
Cool. Thank you so much, Amy Jo, for coming on, and thank you everybody for the awesome questions.
Thank you guys. Have a nice night.
Have a good night.
Bye.